So this is a pen that I reviewed quite a while ago on my channel. This is the Pilot V pen or Pilot Varsity, and it is a disposable fountain pen. It's a pen that you can pick up from a lot of post offices or news agents, and it's probably going to be their only fountain pen if they have a wide selection of pens to choose from. It has an alright nib, it feels pretty cheap, but it does offer a better writing experience than any Bic is going to offer. Now, unfortunately, once you empty out this fountain pen, there is no proper way of refilling it. Like, there is a way of doing it with a syringe, though last time I did that, the syringe exploded in my face and I had a face full of ink. That was not fun. Anyway, don't do it, it's awful. Thankfully, Pilot make a competitor to this pen that makes the Pilot Varsity redundant, and it's this. This is the Pilot Petit1, and this is a pocket fountain pen that Pilot really needs to market. For $5, which is pretty much the exact same price of this pen, it offers way more in terms of actually being a pen. For one, you can actually refill this pen, and that pretty much checks all the boxes to make this pen obsolete. So let's get onto the specs of this fountain pen, first of all, before we get into the actual pen itself. So capped, this pen is 10.8 centimeters, uncapped it's 9.5 centimeters long, posted it's 13.3 centimeters long. Now in terms of the weight, this is a very light pen. Posted is going to be about 11 grams and unposted is about 8 grams. This is a very, very light pen. Now you can obviously see from just it in relation to my hand, this is a tiny fountain pen. 10.8 centimeters long is shorter than what most pens are uncapped. This is the Pilot Varsity V pen, and it is longer uncapped than this pen is capped, and I think that is just crazy. And there is no way that anyone could use this pen uncapped. So of course this pen is designed to be used capped. Now it's certainly shorter than most pens, much shorter than the Pilot Varsity V pen, but say if you've used maybe the Wingsung 3003 or the Kaweco Sport or maybe the Pilot Prera, it is very similar in terms of length with those pens. In fact, the Pilot Prera is only just a little bit bigger than this pen, and I do enjoy using the Pilot Prera. It's pretty much at the minimum length that I can use for fountain pens, and so's this pen. The good thing they have done to make sure that it is comfortable to use is make it a pretty thick pen, which does help. This grip here is 11 millimeters in diameter, and this bit here is about 13 millimeters in diameter, so its thickness does compensate for it being short, and I can write with this pen for 20, 30, 40 minutes without getting, tired of using it. It is really comfortable to use. The only issue that I have with this fountain pen is there is a little bit of a step down, reminiscent of the Parker Vector that I had, and that was really annoying. So annoying, in fact, that I sanded the crap out of it on a lathe and got rid of it. Thankfully, the step down here is not as sharp, it's sort of rounded, which makes it a little bit nicer to use, though if I do use this pen as an everyday carry pen for, after this video, I'll probably sand down the step down as well. Now, if you look at the body of the fountain pen, you can tell that it is plastic, and Pilot pens are well built, and this pen is no exception, even if it does cost $5. The Pilot Prera uses plastic as well, and that plastic survives, being scuffed up and everything. And this plastic does. I'm not sure if it's the same plastic, I can't imagine that it would be, but I have used this pen since early December. I've been using it every day. I've chucked it in my backpack at least 10 times, and I've been using it every day. I've taken it on vacation, and it has held up well. There are a few micro scratches on the barrel, but because I've dropped the barrel, you cannot see any of the scratches. As well as that, the printing here has lasted pretty well. The only thing that has taken a bit of a beating is the sticker that came with it. If you look at the clip and the barrel of the fountain pen, you can tell that the plastic is coloured, and there are certainly several different variants of colour that you can get. Now, the Pilot Petit1 is certainly a pen that people love to eyedrop, and I can see why. I eyedropped this when I got it, which was early in December. I filled it right to the top with turquoise ink, and I've been using it ever since. I've taken this pen on holiday, I've been using it every single day, and even after a month and a half worth of use, there is still about maybe a fifth of the barrel left worth of ink. So that shows that eyedropping this pen really does work well. In terms of the threads, and eyedropping this pen, there is a little bit of debate with it because the threads are very thick and they're very shallow or short, and some people don't like to eyedrop this pen because of it. Now, here's what I did. I got a lot of silicone grease and just slapped it on, lubed it all up, and just, when I put it on, when I twisted it on, tons of silicone grease built up along the outside, and I just rubbed it off. So yes, you can eyedrop this pen. I've had no issues with it. It's worked well, and it's lasted me, a month and a half. I'll also mention about the converter with this pen. You do need to use Pilot mini converters. They're not the same converters that you'll get with your Pilot 78G or Pilot Kikuno. They are a different converter, and they offer a tiny amount of ink. As well as that, you can't use a converter in this pen. I tried to do that, and while the nozzle does fit on, you can't get the back of the pen on, which is a little bit annoying. Okay then, let's talk about the nib of this fountain pen. So, Pilot, I would say, have 3 lines of nibs. You have the top tier nibs. I'm talking about the nibs that you get on your Namikis, the Falcons, and your Justice fountain pens. Those are the pens that are going to be hand ground. They're going to be, they're going to have gold in them. They're going to be really good nibs. The next type of nib you're going to get is your nibs that you're going to get on the mainstream pens. Pretty much the nibs that you find on the Metropolitan, 78G, Kikuno, and Prera. They're pretty solid nibs, and they're mass produced, but I am a really big fan of the Pilot medium nib from this line, and I think they are wonderful nibs. Now, the third tier nibs are the nibs that you get on the Pilot Varsity V pen and the Pilot Petit1. What are these nibs? Well, they're very, very low quality nibs. They look to be punched from a single piece of metal, very basic construction, very basic folding. The breather hole hasn't been punched out. The iridium tip has been put on, it looks like to be very crudely. Not as nice as all the other pens. You get what I mean. You get what you pay for on these pens, and while I do say these are Pilot third tier nibs, I gotta say they are way better in terms of reliability and quality than, say, a Jinhao nib. And why do I say that? Well, I've used 3 of these in the course of me using fountain pens. I've used 1 of these I have this one, so I've used 4 pens with this nib, and in all of those pens, they have all been exactly the same. They've been the exact same nib, they felt the same, and that's not a bad thing. They've all been ground well, they're very smooth, there's very little resistance, they're reliable. You can stop using this pen for a month, come back, it will work. But on the downside is these pens have no character, they have no personality. You press down on this nib, they don't flex at all. There is 0 flex from this fountain pen, which is a little bit of a shame because you always think that, fountain pens, these are the pens that flex like crazy. You can do awesome calligraphy and copperplate with them, and yes, with most pens you can't flex them to the nth degree, but you can always squeeze a little bit of flex out of them, but this one does not flex at all, and that's why I love this nib, but I don't use it all the time. I love it as a, just a workhorse pen, but if I'm writing, just because I'm writing and I like to write, there's nothing amazing about this pen. Super reliable, but if you're looking for something with a little bit of character, but you're willing to take the risk of getting a bad nib, I always say get a Jinhao. Welcome to the writing sample for the Pilot. This is the Petit1. Petit1. It has well, they say they have a fine nib, but it's much closer to the medium nib that comes on all the other fountain pens, including this Pilot Prera. Here, the ink that I'm using is Noodler's turquoise. I only got a really small sample of Noodler's turquoise, and I think it was mixed with a little bit of black. I cannot remember, because I was mixing up a little bit of ink. So, let's get into a writing sample. Alright then, thank you for just bearing with that lovely writing sample. As you can probably see from the writing sample, absolutely no trouble from this fountain pen. The pen worked without a charm, very consistent writing and very consistent flow of ink, no hard starts or anything, though as you can see, absolutely no line variation. That is both natural line variation and forced line variation. So, no line variation in the nib, and if I start to push down, no pressure, and I start to build up, yeah, there's no line variation at all. If we look at no line variation and just pushing down, there is no difference whatsoever. Absolutely nothing. Maybe you do get a little bit of more ink flowing onto the page, but that's about it. In terms of speed, this pen keeps up well with fast writing. Finally, if we look at wetness, because I have eye dropped this pen, there's a little bit more ink, pushing down on the feed. Usually that makes it a little bit wet, but it's actually really nice for wetness. Though thankfully, as you can see from me writing the whole transcript of this video, I was able to write it on low quality paper.